It's time to talk about Naruto, show just what he's really capable of, show just what he can do, and perhaps even cover some forgotten scaling. Naruto is pretty difficult to have down to a single power level for a tier, just because his abilities are so strong, mainly being in his shadow clones. But I'll do my best to do what I always do, and that's cover his feats, his powers, and scaling, make sure everything is proper. I will not calc stack abuse, of course, I will not take unbacked statements, that's a big one, and I will be separating out the attack potency from the destructive capacity shown, another very big one with this series. Lastly, because I know Naruto can be such a favored series, where he gets a lot of overhype, I'll try to be even more extra clear in my examples, and anything I say, anything here that I say in any of my past videos or this one to future videos and scaling feats and more will apply just the same. So here's the unbiased look into Naruto, Hokage of the Hidden Leaf. Speed being the ever important stat that it is, means I'll be touching on it first like usual, and Naruto certainly has plenty of great speed feats. Right off the bat, even in the very beginning, the stage 1 curse mark for Sasuke is easily far and away enough to easily blitz the Sound Ninja. I know blitzing them specifically isn't impressive, but scaling will come in. We know Minato was considered the fastest, and yet even then Naruto surpassed him, being able to easily dodge around the Raikage. This isn't dodging a blow and being near him like a simple movement, like just barely moving his head. He dodged to the extent that he moved entirely around him. And of course, the man's fist was but a couple inches away when he did so. Hell, this was when the Raikage was with his Raiton chakra mode. So yes, he did this to full speed Raikage. One big thing I want to point out here is that most of Naruto calculations that get them anywhere near speeds even above Mach 100 all require absolute assumptions on the idea that chakra-based attacks of an element move the speed of that element, such as lightning and light. I covered this in my last video detailing how Naruto isn't as strong as you think, so I won't overdo it here, but just know that being as speed is distance divided by time, most speed calcs for Naruto by literally every other type of means has KCM not much higher than Mach 20 in a lot of cases, much like even Bijoux here being able to react and move out of the way of Bijoux cloaked B. Also, it should be noted that Pain vs Naruto showed a direct second by second countdown for the 5 seconds Naruto needed to move. Now, I consider this an outlier, just as I'd consider some Haku light speed that Part 1 Sasuke can somehow react to, how that's an outlier. The 5-second Pain thing is far too slow and doesn't fall in line with the other shown speeds. But I want to make all of this clear. So with that said, I don't actually think Naruto is only Mach 20 or something. Understand that this is not only earlier in the series, but there's plenty of multipliers or different forms that Naruto undergoes from those calcs. But I want to talk about the different forms after addressing this. If you remember this from my last video, everything about that is still the same. However, I'm sure people realized I left out the part where Naruto later runs directly at the laser beam, a separate one, second one, and overpowers it. Well, I was saving it for now. This would be Naruto's single best feat. We have an easy to calc Mach 6,800 plus speed feat, assuming the beam crosses the full diameter of the moon within a second and a half. Now I'm saying a second and a half, some people say it's a second, some people say 2 seconds. I did go like frame by frame. You see it extend for a full second, but the beam you'll actually, if you watch closely especially, frame by frame, you will see it continue to expand after we see it cut off from the screen. So I understand some may look at the beam and think it did so in 1 second, and I can only disagree. With simply stopping to count when the beam reaches the edge of the screen, that's not good enough for me. But 1.5 seconds is pretty fair. What we do know is that it seems to be fully extended a little after that extra half second, when it showed to actually be able to cut a distance further than the moon's diameter. The second and a half calc is guaranteed. It's at minimum what I'm saying it is. Given this, I want to go over this feat in slow motion. What you'll realize is Naruto is running at Toneri before the beam can reach him. Now this would be extremely impressive. Remember, we're looking at a beam that is already calced at Mach 6,800 plus. But you'll see here that the beam actually travels much further than Naruto did, and not even the same amount of time, but a much lesser amount of time, extending much further in time. Extending much further in less time. The sonic booms can be followed throughout, where finally we can see Naruto has made it a certain distance. I want to stop here and explain. Naruto has covered what distance? Distance divided by time. How far from Toneri do you think he was when he started running? Because the beam far past that, and did so before Naruto reached Toneri, which is where the beam is originating from. Naruto is not the speed of this beam, or even close. In fact, here is the exact distance Toneri was knocked away before they started talking to each other. And I'll ask again, what distance is Naruto from Toneri? Is he more than a mile away? If not, how many feet away? Understand that there's 5,280 feet in a mile. Is it perhaps 500 feet away? We don't have a clear-cut answer, so I'll do something I never do, and I'll highball. I'll say the distance they're talking at is around 1 full mile away, just to make it easier for me. In fact, I'll say he covered the distance in 1 second, instead of the 1.5. So when you see this, the beam, by the time it's covered a distance further than Naruto, it's doing so in 1.5 seconds. Naruto doesn't even reach Toneri within that full second. So if I highball and say he was a whole mile away, that makes him Mach 4.73. Mach 4.73. Yeah, really. See, I keep saying that speed is distance divided by time. The beam moves at least 2,159 plus miles in 1.5 seconds, when it takes Naruto even longer, really, to move, say, 1 mile. Naruto's speed feat, not the beam's, but Naruto's, is weak as hell here if we are using cinema time, which honestly I don't really agree with. However, this would not only help Naruto's pitiful feat, but hurt the beam's good feat. Because, I mean, another way to take this is that Naruto wasn't going that slow, as he moved a so-called good distance before the beam even made it to Naruto, let alone past him. But this would only make the beam slow then, as it's the speed changing then, because the distance is fixed. Fixed at a highball of 1 mile. Are you telling me that now the beam can't cover that 1 mile? Even under a second, yet before it could cross the whole diameter of a moon in it? You're just making the beam slower at this case. But it's really, it's really not the case here. We see it pass him way earlier. We know the beam is fine. Naruto's feet just sucks. It just would at first glance seem impressive. What we do know for sure though is that Naruto is much faster than this, obviously. The beam scales to be faster and stronger than any feat before it, and Naruto has shown many superior feats in the past. He's obviously much faster, but that's what you get for using cinema time. It's not my fault. That's cinema time. At the end of the day, I have Naruto at full power reaching approximately Mach 100 plus with scaling, which I haven't gotten to yet, but before the scaling, I'll be talking about AP. Alright, so attack potency. Here we get some good stuff because although Naruto is mostly a high DC series, it's still fine in terms of its AP, and Naruto himself scales the highest in this regard. I don't want to bother with too many of the weaker showings, but I'll start with Four Tails Naruto vaporizing all 3 of Orochimaru's Rashinmans. What's important here, besides future scaling, given that Four Tails is much weaker than current Naruto, is that while it's indeed high DC using its wide AoE to vaporize so much, it's also pretty good AP, as vaporization isn't a joke. This isn't just smashing things or breaking things, vaporization is hella impressive. Now that said, the triple Rashinman feat does show that the AP wasn't enough to push through all 3 and still destroy much of anything past, behind the 3rd one. But vaporizing what it did hit that quickly is actually insane, because the speed at which something is vaporized matters too. But moving on to the higher end feats, we obviously have 6 paths God Tree Madara being capable of producing enough gravitational pull to create massive meteors, each in fact so big that even shards of them were bigger than mountains. A good scale of this is here, where you can get a sense of their size compared to the God Tree and the area. And notice, one's been cut in half. Note, most mountains come up to around 1 mile, 2 miles tops. That means even these shards are coming to like 10 to 15 miles, or yeah, about 10 to 15 miles in wide, and the meteors being even bigger than that. These are really big. This, of course, he cuts it in half, of course, with his Susanoo, which even just Madara's, who's especially at this point really doesn't scale to current Sasuke, can split mountains, plural, from afar with nothing but the air pressure of the Susanoo sword. It's really not a surprise that the full contact of Sasuke's Susanoo sword, of course being much stronger than the air pressure, can easily cut that meteor, the full thing. Of course, Naruto can also blow them up easily too, this being mostly a DC feat in showing, but we of course also know that those explosions have AP that easily scale to the same AP Sasuke's Susanoo sword is putting out. So to make it clear, Naruto's feat here is not impressive on the AP scale for what we're seeing from it. It's mostly just showing high DC, being able to destroy based entirely on how big the explosions are. But scaling is 100% something I look at. Scaling matters. And of course, these attacks scale to Sasuke's Susanoo sword in AP. The reason I brought that up specifically is because next we have the 10 Tails Bijoux Bomb doing this. An amazing DC feat, but once again showing big destruction via the big AoE. Once again, however, this move is not just a little above the previous feats, but instead massively above them, and I mean in AP. We see earlier that Naruto can make a Bijoux Bomb strong enough to easily match multiple other Bijoux simultaneously. And the 10 Tails dwarfs the 9 Tails by such a margin that it should be clear just how much more AP the 10 Tails Bijoux Bomb is than the other feats, including Naruto's and Sasuke's Bijoux Bomb and Susanoo Chidori Clash. And this brings me to the last feat, the end of the really hype Naruto versus Sasuke fight where they clash at the very end. They have one more final clash, but this is the big one. This is the one that really scales and matters. An insane amount of force that was felt in the next country over. With this feat, we have 2 attacks, so Naruto's not the entirety of the force here, but it scales into large country level if the AP was to be used on a large country's amount of earth. But this collision wasn't on anything but each other, instead blowing mass portions of the attack's energy away and canceling out far into the clouds even. For it to have done what it did from the distance they were at, and on each other, not even directly on what it was destroying, Naruto would have needed to have, assuming half for simplicity, at least enough AP for a medium-sized country. Now this was indeed using the energy of the other tailed beasts on Sasuke's end, but this is also not current Naruto for his end, and as such, it's not necessarily wrong to say Naruto does have the AP of at least medium-sized country busting. Now if this upsets you that it is country level, understand this. What I just covered is their best feat, and most likely some of the other feats I've shown may be getting overhyped. So for example, let's cover Madara's meteors that are super big, because I don't think people really understand just how big countries are. You see, this feat here is in the Frost Country. It's where the God Tree grew, and if you look how big those meteors are, they wouldn't even fully ravage the entire Frost Country. But well, it is a country after all. But no. Here, look, and you'll see that Frost Country is small as hell. Yep, that's it, circled in red, and this is to be expected. Another look at the same map shows it here. For perspective, look at this. And circled would be a country of around similar size. This is exactly why I said small, medium, or large country levels. We're not talking about Egypt here or anything. the Frost Country isn't, it's very, very small. Now, this isn't the best feat either, but anyone thinking they are even small continental are fooling themselves very, very hard, let alone planetary, my god. No, wait, they're solar system level now. Hopefully, my point is getting across to you. But anyway, it's getting time to wrap this video up, so I'll finish with the different forms and start with Curse Mark. Now, Curse Mark was actually very strong, able to come in different stages of power. I'll also be able to show a back statement and an unbacked statement with this. Remember the sound 4? Remember Choji's fight? See, here we have a mega-sized Choji, so large that he dwarfs the trees around him, and under him is Jirobo. And Jirobo has yet to go full Curse Stage 2, because when he does, he literally throws him. It's not even a little toss, and he says his level 2 gives him more than 10 times his original strength. Now that's a statement. Do you think I believe him? Of course I do. Actually, it's backed. It's fully backed. The boy just tossed Choji like a volleyball. Look how massive he is. However, then we have Butterfly Choji. Actually, before that, let me make it clear. He wasn't doing anything close to this before he transformed. He then has a feat backing up the statement. Back to the Butterfly Choji. We have Butterfly Choji saying he's now 100 times stronger than he was before, not even just his base, no less. I mean 100 times stronger than his massive self. And yet, while he manages to kill Jirobo in a single hit, which, I mean, he better, even at just 10 times the power of his giant self, he barely dealt much of any damage to the surrounding area, instead cratering only a small amount of area around him. This is evidence against being literally 100 times stronger than his already boosted self. Note, however, that Jirobo states it boosts his strength 10 times, not his overall power. This is important because the others instead show boosts that seem similar in total power, split among their stats, and not only strength. This is the Curse Mark, and even a one-tailed Naruto could match Curse Mark 2 Sasuke, a one-tailed Naruto. Here's where the scaling can get really massive, because that's a lot of missing tails. Then there's Sage Mode, which while not showing to increase his strength a full 10-fold, like specifically Jirobo Stage 2, it's close, while also increasing his other stats by a smaller margin. And of course, then we have his most powerful transformations involving the Nine Tails chakra. All this said, I want to make it clear that these boosts do not get applied to his country level attack potency, as that feat was under his strongest form possible. So yes, without him being at that absolute full power, Naruto is reaching small country attack potency instead. However, this is before current Naruto, as I keep saying. And that wraps it up. I like to go over his abilities and what they do, but this is already long enough, and are already well known enough or will be covered in this fight. But I'll say at least this much, Shadow Clones are absolutely busted. It will change so much about how a fight will go. It's literally a multiplier on how much AP you can churn out. But anyways, this will all be covered when he fights his opponent. So that's all. I hope you enjoyed the video, perhaps learn some things too. I think Curse Mark is a forgotten scaling when even one Tails Naruto could keep up with Curse Mark 2. That's actually insane. So if you enjoyed this, make sure and like, subscribe, and most importantly, comment below what you think. Conversations. Share the video too, and let's get even more discussions, and honestly, even a community of those that enjoy unbiased and fairly skilled breakdowns and fights. Ciao.